at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.Breakthrough Media Magazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.BreakthroughMediaMagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.BreakthroughMediaMagazine.com. www.BreakthroughMediaMagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for price.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sally Ann Roberts, your host for a special edition on Let's Live Radio. As you know, Let's Live Radio is your home for 24/7 gospel music and inspiration. And we're so happy to be on practically every continent right now. And so whether it's morning, noon, or night at the time that you're watching us or listening to us, we just want you to know that we care about you, and we are so happy that you are part of the Let's Live family. Today, we want to talk about something. The 25th chapter of Matthew is very profound. And, sometimes we come into this world and we wonder, what's our purpose? And we all have a purpose. And in the 25th chapter of Matthew, we see the purpose for every child of God. And the purpose is this. The king will say to those, this is how it's described, how the hereafter is described, how Jesus described what it will be like when we meet our Maker face to face. And he said it was like this. The king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed, into the kingdom. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me." And then the righteous will say, when did we ever do that? When did we ever feed you? When did we ever give you anything to drink? When did we ever provide for you? And the king will say to them, whenever you did for the least of these my brothers and sisters, you did it unto me. So as we serve others, we are serving our Creator. Isn't that a wonderful thing that, people think, what do I have to do? All we have to do to pass the test. And I look at this is a classroom. I know things are going crazy right now. We saw the insurgency at the Capitol, and you might say, where is God? God is here. We have a pandemic that's raging. Where is God? God is here. And he loves each and every one of us. And he has a plan for us. And our purpose is simply this, to care about our brothers and our sisters. If we do that, we automatically pass every test. We meet the burden. You say, well, I can't possibly be good enough. All you have to do is love. And that's why this is a very special edition of Let's Live Radio right now, because we're talking about an organization that is doing that. Covenant House of New Orleans. Covenant House is located in different cities all across the country. I am most familiar with Covenant House here in New Orleans because this is my home. Covenant House is doing magnificent work. And there is someone with us right now, Richard Arnold, who is the Director of Communications and Development for Covenant House. And Richard, Rich, I have to say something about you. You are a multi-talented individual because I used to be the co-host of not Good Morning America. That's my sister Robin.
Right.
I'm taking your job, Robin, of on WWL TV, the Eyewitness Morning News. Isn't that something? I've been in retirement now for several years, and I'm trying to think, what was the name of that show? Eyewitness Morning News. And Rich would come on the show with the Big Easy Boys, and you harmonize beautifully, you sing beautifully, and you do good work beautifully as well. I've had a chance to see you at work at Covenant House, and your fruit. They say you'll know a man by his fruit, and the fruit is beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for that special introduction. We definitely miss you on Eyewitness News, but it's an honor to be here this morning, and thank you for that really meaningful reading that you read. I agree with it 100%. And that's really the mission of Covenant House, is to serve. And that's what we're all about. And, the least among us. And if not us, who? If not now, when? That's what Jim says often, and it speaks to the urgency of our mission.
For people who are not familiar with Covenant House, describe what you do.
So Covenant House cares for young people ages 22 and under who are overcoming homelessness and trafficking. I like to say that we're a crisis center and not a shelter because really for two reasons. I think the first is that some people have, in their view, they think of a shelter as maybe dirty, or they have other, previous misconceptions about what a shelter might be. And so we work very hard to overcome that. And we make our facility welcoming and clean and beautiful. And so I think some of the young people, it's important for them to know that it can be a home for them, and that's what we try to be. We can never take the place of family, but in many ways that's what we're called to be for some of these kids. And then secondly, it's because we offer so much more than just shelter. We do provide food, water, clothing, but every young person that comes in our door has individual circumstances and their own unique background, and so each one of them has their own unique case plan. And so for one person, it might be about, let's make sure that we can get them into college, or maybe help them with the GED. Let's help them find an apartment off-site. For someone else, it might be more about making sure that they're under the same roof for a week and seeing if we can get them on medication, mental and behavioral health counseling, substance abuse counseling, life skills, financial literacy. I mean, what we do really runs the gamut. And we know that all of that is so necessary because it's not as easy. I wish it were, but it's not as easy about just putting a roof over someone's head.
And the age group that you target and help?
So it's 22 and under. However, we have a number of survivors of human trafficking who are a little bit older than that, and that's because we've become one of the leaders who are providing that care, and we know there's a need, and so we're sort of stretching. We're always, who's out there that needs help, and how can we meet the need? And so in that area, we are caring for some survivors who are a little older. And on the other hand, most of our kids are between the ages of 16 and 22, but a third of our young women are mothers. And so right now we're caring for about 80 or 85 toddlers as well. Yes. So we've got 100 young people living on our campus at Covenant House on the edge of the French Quarter, and we have another 120 who are living in off-site apartments. And that really has expanded. I was talking to you about the impact of the pandemic. Since March, since the outbreak of the pandemic, our census has grown 40%. So we were seeing about 160 young people before the pandemic, and now we're caring for 220 youth and children.
I want you to describe a little bit about the background. How do young people end up on the street? That's basically, these are young people who are homeless. How did this happen?
So I think, some people might think it's more of a spat, that it's like, well, they're kids that have an argument with their kids and they run away. And then, like we were discussing earlier, sometimes that is the case where if we can reconnect. The first step is always to try to reconnect with family. So these are young people who often have been pushed out by those who should have loved them unconditionally. And it's our job to always try to be that bridge and see if we can find some form of safe, loving family, whether it's their own family or whether it's an aunt or an uncle or a cousin who lives in Arkansas. We can buy a bus ticket. put them on the Greyhound, get them a meal, and we can, that's always the best option. But for most of our kids, 85% are suffering from the effects of severe trauma because of the violence and abuse. There's been a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of physical abuse, and a lot of people just suffering from the violence of the streets. And so that trauma, we know, has a lot of deep impacts. And so everything that we do is driven by that knowledge.
Okay, are we ready for the caller now, or are we going to take a break and then go to the caller, Kelly? Let's talk to our caller now, and I thank you so much. Is this Tawana Ewing? Hi.
Yes, this is. Hi.
Hi, Tawana.
Hi, Rich. Hi, Miss Sally Ann Roberts.
Oh.
I admire you so much.
Well, I admire you. I have heard so many good things about you. Tell us, first of all, how you arrived at, what was going on in your life when you met Covenant House?
I was 17 years old, new mother to a 2-month-old boy. My son's father and I, it was really bad, like with fighting and things. I lived with my dad. We had a huge argument fight. It's like my dad, my family, it was really bad. And I just left. And I found myself at Walmart in Harahan, just walking around, crying, not knowing what to do. But I tried to catch the bus. It was so late, the buses was not running. And I heard of the Covenant House because of their outreach team. They came to my school, which was Rob Wayne at the time in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember them. So I'm like, okay, I'll go straight there. But they had a elderly couple. They must have saw me just constantly walking around a parking lot, and they offered me a ride, which I am so thankful for them. And they brought me all the way downtown to the Covenant House.
Hmm. So they drove you to Covenant House. And what did Covenant House do for you, Tawana?
They changed my life forever. And like Rich said, when I first saw the Covenant House, a homeless shelter, I thought, like, dirty. I just couldn't believe I was in this predicament where I had to go to a homeless shelter. I thought, I just did not know what to expect with it. I'm like, I have to protect my child from all of these monsters, like, I don't know. But the Covenant House, they helped me become a better mother. They provide a safe haven for me. I felt safe there. They offered me parenting classes, which I didn't grow up with my mom. My mom died when I was 2. And so it's basically the streets raised me. So I didn't know what that real love was. In the Covenant House, every staff member, from the janitors to the cafeteria staff to the caseworkers, everyone showed so much love and interest in my well-being. It was just so foreign to me because I was not used to that at all. And they gave me the confidence to finish school. They provide daycare for my child. They provide work for me when I worked at Covenant Cafe, which was across the street from the Superdome. And because of me working at Covenant Cafe, I met who was the medical director of Tulane Clinic at Covenant Cafe. And she always came in. She was very impressed with me. She created a whole job just for me. And once I lived at the Covenant House and once I had that support system, everything just started working out for me. I was able to graduate high school. I was able to work at a primary care clinic, which was right there in the back of Covenant House at the time. It was like a full circle with everything. And to this day, they're there for me. They're my family. And that was 12, 13 years ago. Now I'm on the board of directors at the Covenant House, and I'm able to give what I receive and give to everyone else, to all of the youth, especially the teenage mothers, because I just relate to them so much, and I was that person. And I see how passionate everyone is to help those, and I just love it. And whatever I can do, I'm here.
You're paying it forward, Tawana. You are doing for others what was done for you. I think of the elderly couple that noticed you walking around, sometimes caring just means paying attention, and offered you a ride
Yes.
to get to Covenant House.
Mhm.
And then when you got there, and I visited the facility. It is a beautiful facility. It is this, and it's filled with loving
Yes.
people, and they just helped you by giving you a way up. So what are you doing today?
Yes. Today, I am currently still working in the medical field. I am a medical receptionist for a primary care clinic with LCMC Health. And as you know, with COVID and everything going on at this trying times, I am on the board of directors. And my child, he does attend one of the best schools academically wise, which is Lusher. He's in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
He's on a B honor roll. So, I'm I want to break the cycle of my family. And I'm trying to set that foundation, which I did not have, to provide to my child the best that he can ever be. And to just give him that foundation, I'm very thankful to the Covenant House. For that.
I can see your eyes are getting a little watery
Well,
listening
it's
to
just,
Juana.
you can never take the place of hearing from a young person that's been through our program. And Tawana's obviously just a tremendous human being. And that's the thing, is that she's not just a statistic. She's a person with tremendous potential and beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same with every one of our young people. And not every one of our young people has this sort of phenomenal success, but it's up to us to provide them the pathway to their fulfilling their potential and their independence. And sometimes it may take 2, 3, 4, 5 times. We have kids that blow out and come back to us,
Yeah.
and we're always going to open our doors for them to come back.
And as Tawana was saying, now your son is blossoming. Your children are all blossoming as a result of this. And I
Yeah.
like to say that when you throw a life preserver into the sea of life, the ripples get bigger and bigger and bigger the farther away from that life preserver. The results, the impact of this organization, Covenant House of New Orleans, is going to reach generations. Your children will benefit, their children will benefit, and everyone will be able to say, thank you for Covenant House. And every family has that story. In my family, my
Yeah.
mother was dealing with a lot in her life, and there was a teacher who changed the trajectory of my mother's life, and she became the first in her family to go to college, and then all of her offspring. So, Tawana, I just want to say I am just absolutely overwhelmed by your story, and I want you to tell people who are listening right now the importance of donating to Covenant House.
It's very important to donate to Covenant House, because this is the only place I know that provide a safe haven for at-risk youth, especially between the ages that they provided to. A lot of the kids, they have stories that you would not believe. Like me just being there and listening to other stories, it makes my story nothing compared. Like a lot of these people experience sexual abuse, physical abuse, being put out because of their sexual preference. And just for them to have a safe place to go to not be abused anymore, physically, mentally, because I am still suffering. I am 30 years old now. And it may look good, which I have to get professional help, because I still think about my past trauma. And the Covenant House, I'm just so grateful for them, because they offer social workers, psychiatrists, they offer all of that. They offer almost like everything for those kids. And especially the kids that grow out of the foster care system, they're just put on the street. And the Covenant House is the only place that accepts these kids. And it really saves lives. It's really saving lives. It's getting kids off the street. And that is just so important, to keep a place like this open. And it's just so, so important. And with you guys donating, even donating, volunteering your time, energy, just to see and meet the kids, like, you're just going to instantly fall in love. It's going to make you want to become a better person. It's going to make you want to do more and be better. Because of the Covenant House, that's all I donate my time to, is giving back and doing. Even though I don't have like that, I still, just a small gesture as bringing someone hot cocoa on a very cold day that's out on the street. Covenant House makes me want to just do that all of the time, just to give, because they're doing so much for these youth and for these kids. It's just amazing that
Well,
we
you're
have to keep
amazing,
the doors
Tawana. I'm
open.
telling you. You said it as much better than I could have ever said it. So thank you so much.
Tawana, thank you so much for sharing, and also thank you so much for paying it forward. You are making a difference in
Yes,
the
ma'am.
lives of so many people right now, and I'm just honored to have this opportunity to talk to you, and thank you, and continued success to you and your family.
Okay, thank you guys for
Thank you,
having
Tawana.
me. Thank you so much. All right, you guys have a great one.
You too. God bless you.
Okay.
My,
Okay,
my,
bye.
my, 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 Richard. This
Amazing.
is
Well,
what
I'm
it's all
glad I
about.
texted
got
her.
goosebumps.
I know that's the thing. Is sometimes sometimes it's hard to get young people who are obviously available and free. I texted her, "Would you mind doing a favor and calling in?" She's like, "Absolutely, anything for the Cove," you know. And there's no substitute for those stories. Which is why there's one thing I wanted to mention. There's a documentary that Kelly referenced she had seen. It's called Shelter, and it's a very powerful, very raw documentary that's about 90 minutes long and free to watch. And if you go to shelterdocumentary.com, you can view it for free.
What
and
is it
there's
again, shelter?
shelterdocumentary.com.
Okay.
It now has almost over 3 million views. It's been around for a few years now, and a lot of very raw, real, powerful stories of young people that have been helped at Covenant House.
And people who help Covenant House, that's part of their fruit as well. You know, you say, what's my purpose? Maybe your purpose is, well, I believe everyone has a purpose to help. And Covenant House is bearing much good fruit in the lives of children, in the lives of young adults like Tawana and her children. And what can you say to the people right now about what you need as far as money, as far as clothing, whatever? What do you need?
Well, I will start by saying that you're right. I think it really is a gift to work for Covenant House and to help Covenant House, because you really, it's so meaningful because you know there is a true impact. And that's all, you know, I was an actor up in New York, and I wanted a more meaningful life, and I found it. And I just am so grateful for that gift. And in terms of what we need, we're at about a $6.5 million organization that's 75% privately funded in one of the poorest cities in the country. So it's a tough job and we depend very heavily. About 30% of our budget is dependent on individual private donations from a grandmother who sends in her $20 check every month from Arkansas, et cetera. And then, so that's obviously anything you can give is very supported. And we also have, right now, unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we have limited volunteer opportunities, but we will, again, begin offering those soon. One thing that I think is a wonderful thing, if anyone who's involved with the church might consider, is going to your church and seeing if they might want to cook a meal for our cafeteria, because we provide, we're 24/7, and we have a lot of mouths to feed, and that's a big part of our budget. And so we have parishes that will prepare a community meal, and they can come and serve the dinner to our young people, which is a great opportunity to interact with them. Right now, you can only prepare the meal and drop it off because we're limiting the interaction because of the pandemic. But we see it in the future that, you know, hopefully all those restrictions will lift at some point.
Let's talk about the pandemic. How has that affected Covenant House and your residents?
Well, we have been blessed, I'll start with that, tremendously, because of the fact that we have not seen a big outbreak. And there's a Covenant House in Houston. There are other Covenant Houses. The closest one is Houston for us. And they had to shut down for a period because, you know, we've got young people, many of whom are living 2, 3, 4 to a room in our crisis center. And that's one of the reasons why we expanded our offsite apartment to make it more safe. But just the fact that we have young people, many of whom have underlying medical conditions of their own, you know, so they're not in that older age range, but many of them might be more at risk because of their past experiences, and they're living in close quarters. So that puts our staff at risk, and many of our staff have underlying medical conditions, et cetera. So we have been very blessed. We're doing all that we can from a protective perspective in terms of the plastic and the PPE. And whenever we have a positive case, and we have had positive cases, we immediately will quarantine, and we will bring, you know, services and food, et cetera, to our young people who are quarantining. But so far, so good in terms of a big outbreak. But it's led to a major increase in our census. I think because what we're learning is that there's been a big increase in aberrant behavior and family abuse and violence behind closed doors, because everyone's living in small spaces of their own. Suddenly they're not going out, and when you're together more often, as you know, during the holidays or whatever, there's tensions can rise, and so we've seen young people come to us as a result of that.
It's like you are that shelter, what's the word I'm looking for? You're an oasis.
Safe haven. That's
Safe
what
haven.
Tawana said.
Yes, but an oasis in a sea of a lot of pain. And there is a lot of pain right now. But
Yeah.
Covenant House has been, how many years now has Covenant House been doing
So
this?
Jim Kelly founded Covenant House on his honeymoon with his wife Ginny in 1986. So we opened our doors in 1987, and this is actually Jim's last week as executive director of Covenant House. I want to mention he's been he is Covenant House. But we're very excited. We're going to be welcoming a brand new executive director. Her name is Renisha Robertson, and she starts the day after Martin Luther King Day next week. So excited about that.
And it continues and it continues. Well, we're talking about Covenant House New Orleans. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to be back and tell you how you might want to be involved with Covenant House. Let's Live Radio is working on a raffle, and we're going to tell you more about that when we come back.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime, with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime, with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLA Skyline.
We have been talking today on Let's Live Radio about a very special program in New Orleans, Covenant House, New Orleans, serving young people and children and giving them a new lease on life. And we all can do something to be a part of it. Let's Live Radio, although we're an internet radio station, we reach all over the world. Our home is New Orleans. And so we wanted to do something special for Covenant House, New Orleans. And to tell you more about that is the director of Let's Live Radio. And let's throw it over to Kelly Abney.
Yes, so the Covenant House is doing, the NOLA Skyline Event Center that is on the top floor of the Executive Plaza, which is where we are broadcasting from today, the Executive Plaza in New Orleans East. They are raffling off the top floor, which is the NOLA Skyline Event Center, and the views are absolutely beautiful. You can see the whole downtown New Orleans area. You can see the whole New Orleans area just from that top floor, and at night it's really beautiful. And so what they are doing, and what Let's Live Radio is doing, and also Breakthrough Media Magazine, we are coming together to sell raffle tickets to raffle off that top floor for someone to have their next big event for free. Now, it has to be when the guidelines open up for people to be able to gather and stuff like that, but that will eventually come. And then not only will you be entering to win that Skyline Event Center for free, but all of the proceeds are going to the Covenant House. So you're also helping do good in the community while possibly getting a chance to host your next big event for free. And so the information is on the screen. It's one raffle ticket for $5, 3 raffle tickets for $10. And the way you can buy them is you could just come up to the Executive Plaza. It's on Lake Forest and Reed, that big glass building. And it's 10001, 3 zeros, because some people do 1001 and you will not come here. So it's 10,001 Lake Forest Boulevard. And you just go to the main office on the 2nd floor. Security guard is usually right there downstairs, and right when you walk into the lobby area, he'll tell you where to go. And it's just right there on the 2nd floor, and you just buy you some raffle tickets, and hopefully you win. And the deadline is 7 days from now, which is January 18th, MLK Day, is when we will do the live drawing and see who won.
Thank you very much, Kelly, and I hope everyone will enter this contest. And we are going to make our own family donation before the end of this broadcast. We have something for you. I'm going to go ahead and give it to you now, and you can take that back from our family, because we really believe in this. And now, in the remaining time that we have here, I thought, Rich, it would be kind of interesting to hear what people listening, their story. Because I believe everybody has a story of when somebody did something that changed the trajectory of your life. And it could be something that was done for a relative, your mother or your father, that changed the trajectory of your family's life. For me and my family, it's Wilma Schnegg, a woman we never met. And this woman looked at a little girl by the name of Lucy Marion Tolliver, and she really looked at her. She saw her. She believed in her. From the time she was in second grade, she was an enrichment teacher at Robinson Grammar School in Akron, Ohio. And Wilma Schnegg just took Lucy Marion under her wing. She became a mentor to Lucy Marion. And she told her from the very beginning, you know, you're going to go to college one day. Lucy Marion, my mother, said that at the time, her biggest dream was to work for a nice family, to clean houses, because that's all she thought she would be able to do. She just wanted to have a nice family to work for. And Wilma Schnegg said, you're going to college. And she gave my mother the roadmap as to how to get there. It wasn't just a pep talk. She made sure that my mother took the right courses in high school. She mentored her. And Mom didn't know how she was going to make it. But she said, now, you know, the Akron Beacon Journal has a scholarship that they offer to good students. And she talked to my mother and said, you need to go ahead, Lucy Marion, and enter that. And she applied. And one day, I mean, the good Lord is good. One day, Lucy Marion was playing the piano for the children's Sunday school. My mother could play the piano and sing beautifully. And all of a sudden, the director of the Sunday school came in and said, Lucy Marion Tolliver, stand up, you're in the Akron Beacon Journal. And pulled out and here's her picture with all the other students who had won the scholarship, and my mother was off to Howard University. Wilma Schnegg changed the trajectory of not just Lucy Marion's life, but all the generations to come. And we wouldn't even be here if it hadn't been for Wilma Schnegg, because that's where my mama met my father, Howard University. And so we say that. I want to ask you now, have you ever helped somebody, or have you ever been helped by somebody in a way that changed the trajectory of your life? Share your story. Call us, please, 504-294-504-294-LIVE, L-I-V-E, 504-294-LIVE. Want to hear from you. Share your testimony of how someone helped you or how you helped somebody. 504-294-LIVE. We hope that you call in.
Well, while we're waiting, I can share mine, and it's Jim Kelly, the Covenant House. Is really because I was at a point in my life when I was in New York, and I felt like I was treading water and not living up to my potential, and was really just felt like I was floating along in life, and longing for purpose. And this was right after Katrina. This was during Katrina, is when I was having these feelings about what was next, etc. Ended up speaking to Jim Kelly while he was on the phone late at night, working incredible hours for Catholic Charities at the time on the recovery, and and he's saying, I don't have a job for you. I said, okay. Because I just was connected with him and started talking to him about ways that I could help out. And at the end of the call, I did have a job, but it was just to work, answering phones for Catholic Charities. But I came here and I started doing the work, and it was a gift that changed the course of my life, because suddenly I found the purpose and in having this something to work for, and helping others has been a true gift. And it all started with that conversation with Jim. So he's the one that comes to mind for sure.
I believe that every time we wake up in the morning, we're on our God job. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people say, what am I supposed to do? When you wake up, You just say, Lord, what do you want me to do today? And you'll be surprised how a thought will come to your mind of someone to call.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just making that phone call.
Well, that's what Jim would say. It was providence that phone call was providence, because I was at a point in my life where I think that was God saying, this is your next step. And I tell people often who are in a similar situation where they feel kind of paralysis, where they don't know, paralysis by inaction.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time you make a decision to take a step forward, and step forward through fear. It's like as an actor when you're in the wings and you're scared to death to go on stage, but you step on stage.
Yes.
It's never as hard as you thought it was going to be, and you're always glad you did it. So you just got to do it, and you got to take that step, and you got to trust that there is someone out there, leading you in the right direction. And even if it's in the wrong direction temporarily, it might steer you ultimately in the right direction.
Yes.
But you're not going to go anywhere if you don't take that step.
If don't take the step. And I think about the elderly couple that saw Tawana and gave her a ride. Tawana may not even know how to reach out to the couple to say, thank you, here I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do something, no matter how small, when you help someone, you're leaving a legacy. Jim Kelly, you're his legacy of many.
Many.
You are a part of that legacy, and you are the legacy of so many who have come through Covenant House, who have been reached by you and the other people at Covenant House. I remember doing a story on the man who was in charge of maintenance at Covenant House during Hurricane Katrina, and he just saw people walking along. They looked like they were lost. He said, come on in. And he provided for them. They had you had some kind of a generator going, so you're able to take care of people. And that gentleman,
The
all of
untold
them.
countless thousands of people that have helped our young people at Covenant House, it's just overwhelming. But really, the direct care staff, they are the unsung heroes. It's not me. I'm in my office trying to get people to give, support. But it's the people who are doing the work 24/7 on the ground in the midst of a pandemic. What they do is just really, really incredible and sacred work. So they're the ones that deserve. I wish I could have them on the radio program because they do phenomenal work.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to take a break right now, and we come back. We're going to close out the show. If you can, give us a call at 504-294-LIVE. If you have a testimony to share, maybe there's somebody that you want to acknowledge who helped you. We want to hear from you. All right, Kelly, take it away.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding party or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold. This show is being broadcasted live from the Executive Plaza, the premier office building in New Orleans East. This show is being broadcasted live from the NOLA Skyline Event Center. It is the perfect space to make your next memory last a lifetime with breathtaking views of downtown New Orleans. Whether you are hosting a wedding, party, or even a corporate event, the NOLA Skyline Event Center is the venue for you. Visit NOLASkylineEventCenter.com for pricing and more info. Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with Director of Communications at Covenant House, Richard Arnold.
Breakthrough Media Magazine, your ultimate digital, entertainment, community, and advertising magazine. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine to read feature stories on Dr. Whitney Hardy, Margarita Virgin, Lily Lewis, and Elon Brunis. Visit www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com to read the latest issue. That's www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com. www.breakthroughmediamagazine.com.
Stay tuned for Let's Give with Let's Live Radio special broadcast. Sally Ann Roberts sits down with
Welcome back to our special program today on Let's Live Radio and on Facebook Live, as we are talking about Covenant House, New Orleans. And so very happy to have Rich Arnold here, the Director of Development and Public Affairs for Let's Live Radio. See, I'm already thinking you can do two jobs here. You could work at Covenant House and you can work here as well. But Covenant House is doing such good work in our community. And I'm asking that you please consider being part of the raffle where we, Kelly, I want you to go over that raffle again one more time and tell people how they can get their tickets.
Yes, so let me put it on the screen so you can see it as well. So the raffle is all to help Covenant House, and it's also to bring awareness to the beautiful NOLA Skyline Event Center that is right here in New Orleans East, and it is absolutely beautiful. You can go on NOLASkylineEventCenter.com to look at all of the pictures, and you can look at the pricing to see what kind of prize you would be winning. This prize is valued at least $1,400. And so what it is you buy a raffle ticket or three. There are one for $5, there are three for $10, or you can buy as many raffle tickets as you want. And then we choose someone from that raffle to win the NOLA Skyline Event Center for free for their next big event. And so it would be absolutely free. You just have to wait until the economy opens back up, which it definitely will do soon. And then you will have the next event that you host will be free at the NOLA Skyline Event Center if you win the raffle. And so the live drawing will be held on January 18th, and it will be live on air so that you will see it. All of the raffle tickets will be put into a hopper, and we'll spin it around, and they will, someone will pick out a raffle ticket. Probably the NOLA Skyline Event Center property manager will be the one to pick out the ticket, and whoever wins gets the event center for free, absolutely free, for their next big event. And all of the proceeds go directly to the Covenant House.
All right, thank you very much, Kelly. So we hope that you will get those raffle tickets and take a chance at getting a beautiful event center for your special gathering. And I believe, Richard, that when this pandemic is behind us, there are going to be so many family reunions, so many people getting together, and it's going to be a wonderful time, and it's also a wonderful cause for Covenant House. I was talking to you, Richard, when we were in a break about a low period in my life, because I know right now there are a lot of people who are struggling. A lot of people are struggling, and sometimes the path can look so dim that you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I remember being in that situation back in the late 80s. I was feeling really low because the economy had taken a nosedive, and a show that I anchored was being discontinued. And I thought, wow, I'm about to be canned, and I'm going to, how are we going to take care of the family? What's going to happen? We needed two incomes to keep the house and all of that. So, You know how it is when you're going through something, you think of the worst possible situation. Well, that's when I found quiet time. Because I was alone, and I said, I didn't have anyone I felt I could talk to, and the very strange thought came to me, why not talk to me? And so I wrote my first Dear God letter. I said, Dear God, this is what's happening right now. And then after I finished, a thought came to me, now it's time to listen. And so I received my first quiet time message, and now I have countless quiet time messages because quiet time is a very important part of my life. Things are never as bad as they seem. And this is one of my quiet time messages. My favorite verse of Scripture is, be still and know that I am God. Just thinking that passage just makes my shoulders relax. That's Psalm 46:10. Well, this is a message that I received. I will give you everything you need in every season of life. Do not be misled by feelings of regret and fear. You have nothing to fear. How exciting! We are on this journey of life together. There will be strange coincidences. Do not be afraid when opportunity knocks. Accept the call on your life. Wait on me. I am making a way. I will realign your path. I will recalculate as needed your route toward the goal. As long as the blood runs warmly through your veins, I will use you on earth to do good works. Here is your message. Spend time alone with me. Even when your outer circumstances seem dark, look to me, your inner light. Lean hard on me, and you will find peace and joy on even your darkest days. Oh, the magnificent plans I have for you. Focus on that. The maker of heaven and earth is working on your behalf. In the tunnels of life, I am working. You are my child. I love you. Believe that. Trust and obey.
Amen.
And I just want to say thank you, Richard Arnold, for making a difference in the lives of so many, for doing good work. And thank you, listeners, wherever you are, morning, noon, or night. We thank you for tuning in to letsliveradio.com. And we are here for you 24/7 with inspiration and music. And until we meet again, remember, your power is on.